Hey guys, it's Fullmer, and thanks for joining me on my first YouTube tutorial today. I'll try to make this quick and basic so you don't get too bored, but real quickly I want to give a couple of shout outs to the following photographers who's helped me get to where I am today. You can check them out on YouTube, Google them, or Facebook, whatever you want. Anyways, Serge Ramelli, Glyn Dewis, Jimmy McIntyre, Scott Kelby, Calvin Hollywood, Aaron Nace, Michael Woloszynowicz, Joel Grimes, Sean Bagshaw, and of course Carlos Caceres. Anyway, alright, let's get started. What I want to show you today is a quick and easy way to edit a photo with a blown out sky by adding a different sky that you take at a different time and blend them together. We'll be editing the basics with Lightroom and then merging them together with Photoshop. There are many different ways to do this, but I'm not going to go into the more advanced ways. What I want to show you today is just a basic, much simpler method that works pretty well with these blown out skies, and the wider the sky the better. I chose this method because it seemed like the most common landscape errors. A lot of older cameras, they lack the dynamic range to expose both the sky and the back here in the foreground. So this is a really easy way to enhance a photo. Anyway, these are some shots I took of one scene. I did a 9 bracket so I could show you the different levels of what you kind of end up with. And this is with the D800, so I can actually pull with this camera. I can pull quite a bit of detail even out of the really highlight areas. So we're just going to simulate it for those that aren't able to do this. So I chose one about in the mid-range here. And what we're going to do is there's some standard things that I always do to every photo. Most importantly, when you're shooting a wide angle like this, there is what we call chromatic aberration. I don't know if you can see this very well in the video, but there's the red and the blue or green fringes along, especially in the bright contrasty areas. And Lightroom has a really good feature that removes that for you. Just if you scroll down here, it's on the basic. Sorry, I'm using a different resolution that I'm used to for this video. Anyway, it's right here, remove chromatic aberration. When I click it, you can see how it goes away. So really basic. And then I do usually an enable profile corrections, although it's not perfect. If you can see the trees are leaning forward, and this is because when you take a wide angle and you lift it up into the sky, everything tends to bow in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to fix that, and I'll show you real quickly how. Over here there's a manual correction, then there's a vertical, and if you move it back and forth, you can see how it just kind of, so we're going to move it about to here so we can these trees are now upright, and that's perfect. So we're going to go into the crop and just crop a reasonable viewpoint here. And I particularly like to see these trees are right in about the thirds, and the thirds, you can put whatever, kind of recompose the shot where you want to go. I got a little trail going out here, kind of a little bit of the leading lines. And also, there was one other thing with these colors on this particular side where I was looking, there was no red. There's some greens, some yellows, and some oranges, and that's fine, but we're going to enhance that. We're going to give it a little bit of red in here so we can get across a spectrum of colors here. And a quick way to do that is just over here in the hue, saturation, luminance. Bring some of these oranges and yellows down so we can get some more of these colors here, and then pop up the saturation a little bit. Just like that. Anyway, and there's one other thing that I usually do I forgot to mention. Down here in the camera calibration, Usually it defaults to Adobe Standard, but if you, this process here, if you're anything less than at least this 2012, you need to be here. Otherwise you will not be able to get this, a lot of the nicer adjustments in Lightroom. I particularly like as flat as I can get, so I go to camera neutral instead. That gives me more of a flat, so I can see in these shadows here a lot better, and then I can do my own, we're going to do our own contrasting. So right off the bat you can see we're a little bit more colorful. Still the sky's a little washed out, and I actually want to make this sky more washed out for this purpose. So we're going to go up here to this is your white balance. This is basically the exposure levels. You got your exposure and contrast. I never just touch the contrast because we're going to do that with these whites and blacks. You know, a lot of people come up here and hit auto, and sometimes that works, but you'll notice it's just way too dark in here, and then bright. I mean, the contrast is just out of control. So I typically do not do that. So I'm going to reset this back to normal. So again, in these highlights, what I want to do, I'm going to blow them out a little bit more to the white. I'm going to bring up some of these shadows even more. So we have some shadows in there. And we can, in Photoshop, we'll add a little bit of more dynamic contrast to this. So that looks good. It's pretty basic. We've got our white sky that we're going to replace with some more clouds and some color. So just check through all of this, make sure we have everything done, and it looks like we do. We'll go back. I don't touch the clarity. It kind of gives this really grungy look. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. I particularly don't like it anymore. I used to love it, kind of growing out of that. So I'm going to bump up the saturation just a little bit more. The thing about the saturation, or excuse me, the vibrance versus saturation. Let's look at the difference real quick. I really don't care much for saturation because it just looks really abnormally fake. It looks like it's not accurate. Even artistically, it doesn't look accurate to me. So I never use a saturation. Instead, I use the vibrance, and what that typically does is it evens out the color. So the ones that are less saturated brings up the, you know, kind of match what is already saturated. So it's more of an even approach. Then I can tell that this is just a little bit crooked, so I'm going to align the horizon. And again, this is one of the most important things that you need to realize when you replace a sky is the horizon. What that means is you can't really see where the horizon is here, but we're going to guess it's probably around this area here. And you're going to want to know that to make sure that the clouds look right. Otherwise, they're going to look a little off. It's just not going to look right. So anyway, we're done, and we're done in this Lightroom for now, and we're going to go into Photoshop to finish. So we're going to open this up, and I particularly like to edit in 16-bit and in Pro RGB. One thing, there's another couple of videos out there. Whenever you save to the internet, always save it as sRGB, but you can't really edit and get all the colors in that. But that's a whole nother topic, and you can Google for that. There's a lot of ways to accomplish that. Anyway, here we go with our image into Photoshop, and I'm going to load up a sky shot that I took a while back, and this is it. It's completely unrelated to, it's not even in the same day, and you can see there's some mountains down here. Just a quick, I think I got this down at Utah Lake. I saw it, and he says, oh, it's pretty bland, but you know, we're going to make this look a little better. So just at the get-go, we're going to change some of the temperature, give it a little bit more, the white balance a little bit different. Probably I like a little bit warmer, so I'll take it into there. We're going to give it a little bit more purple and pink in the sky because I particularly like that, especially when it's the sunset or sunrise. And then obviously it needs to come up in exposure, so we're going to it's probably in this area here. And what we're doing is this was a raw file, and so it was flat. There's no alterations from the camera. We're doing that instead of letting the camera do it for us. So let me make a little bit more, get some whites and some, give a little bit more color as well. And with the sky, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little bit of noise in there because we brought up the exposure. Even though it was shot at 100 ISO, there's still a little bit in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this luminance and bring it up a little bit to smooth out some of that noise, some of the color noise as well. Then there's one other thing that we need to do, is the lens correction for this photo as well. And how you do that, this is camera raw. It's very similar to Lightroom, has the same controls, the same engine, so it just happens to be part of Photoshop. So if you don't have Lightroom, you can do the exact same thing with camera raw. So anyway, we're going to come up here into lens corrections, and we're going to do this. It'll just even out. You can see how if I toggle it back and forth, you can see it's really dark around the corners here. It's a cool effect, but not right here. So we're going to just remove that. And so we're done with this. So we can open, there's two different ways. We want to open as an object. The reason why is we can go in and edit this later. Again, and change without changing anything. We can go back into camera raw and edit. So we're going to keep that. So here's our sky. What we're going to do is we're going to take the whole entire image and place it over the top of our other ones. We're going to drag this into here, and we're now on top. See, we've got our layers over here. We've got our background image, which is this, and then our clouds up on top. So what we want to do is position. I'm going to lower the opacity just a little bit so we can see how to position the horizontal, basically the horizon. Better yet, let's just convert it straight to, right here's the way that we apply the layer blending. So right now it's normal, which is default. There's nothing spectacular about it. It's just one layer on top of another. So what we're going to do is probably going to go between darken and multiply, and you never know which one's better for it until you just choose it. And you can tell right now I think darkens or multiply is the best way. And right off the bat you can kind of see how we're already, I mean, the sky's looking good. All this stuff we're going to mask out, and I don't want to get too into masking. That's a separate tutorial. I'm going to assume that you kind of know how to do that already. But before I said the horizon was probably around here, and that's where we're going to line this up a little bit so it doesn't look off. So I like the position of the clouds. They look pretty nice. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add if you look down here, there's a little masking. We're going to mask it. And what this does is we're going to hide the parts that we don't want shown through. Like for example, we want to hide all this dark stuff here. The way to do that is just easily paint with a brush. You can press B or come over here and select brush up here. Then here's your colors. You're going to be black and white. And again, we're not going to go into much detail. If you already know that, I would check out another tutorial just to find out how the masking works. But what we're going to do is we're going to paint black on this mask here, which will hide all of this stuff. And just like that, starts to go away. It's almost like magic, if you ask me. And again, we're not going to be picking out all the places up here. If you look around the trees, we're not going to be cutting those out with like a magic wand, because if we come over here and we take this either magic wand, it's going to, I'm on the wrong layer, it's going to select this tree all around here, but in reality it's going to look terrible. You spend a lot of time trying to pick those out, and I don't think it's really worth it, especially when you've got such a dynamic sky. So this is the reason we're doing it this way. So we bring this back on here, and we'll go back to our brush. And up here we've got what's called an an opacity. 100% is plain white or plain black. I should have mentioned this before, and I apologize. This is my first tutorial, so over time we'll get a little better with that. But hardness is essentially how hard is the edge to your brush. And I'll give you an example. Right here, if I paint black, see, it's giving a really hard edge. If you look really carefully, it's a really hard edge there. I need to back up just a little bit. Okay, there we go. Really hard edge, and sometimes that's what you want, but sometimes in this case it's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the hardness. You can get to that by right-clicking on the desktop or coming up here in this right here. It's just whatever's easier for you. So if we go, let's do about 40% and do that again. Now we can see how it's feathered. It's faded from a more white to grayscale to black, and it gives a more feathered look, gradual. So in this case, we're going to go all the way. So we're going to go to 0% hardness, and that's what it does. You can see what it does there. So this is how we're going to clean up these areas around the trees. So we're going to shrink this down a little bit. You can press the brackets, the square bracket left to go bigger or larger with the right bracket. There are other ways to do it, but that's the way I recommend. You can also use this size here, although you can't really see it. You have to go over here and see it, so that's why I don't use that. I will much prefer, and I recommend that you use this instead. And we're gonna shrink this down. And there's one other thing. We don't want to go full on 100%, because if we do, what's going to happen, it's going to leave these haloing around here, and we don't want that. That's typical of hard HDR, and that's the last thing you want, is these halos to be around these trees. So it doesn't look right, doesn't look natural at all. So we're going to back out of that. We're going to come up here to the opacity, and we're going to go, let's go back down to about 40%. Make sure our mask is selected. Then we can go over it a couple times, but just to get some of this so it looks a little good. See, I've gotten a little bit too much here, so I can hit X, switch this back to the white, and go back over these edges. And I think it looks good when the shadow's up here, personally. Gives a little bit more. Just kind of tap in here, bring some of this out. Anyway, here we are right now, and there's one other thing real quickly. It's starting to look really good. The problem is mostly, and you're going to find this with more different colors of skies, is we've got a lot of more greens in this and more blues in here. You can kind of see that there's a little bit off color, and there is a way to fix that to match the color, and there's a couple different ways. You can add filters to even it out, like for example, go down here to create a photo filter layer. I put like a warming filter, bring some of this up. It starts to even this stuff out, but my preferred method is a little bit more advanced, but I think it's highly worth it, and I'm going to show you real quickly how to do that. You want to take your sky, we'll turn this off, this photo filter off for a moment. Take your sky and rasterize it. I think the easiest way to do that is, this is kind of a workaround. I create another layer here, turn that one off, go up to here, and merge visible. Excuse me, actually I told you wrong. I want to duplicate this layer first, because we want to keep that layer in case we want to go back to it and edit it later. So we'll go up to here, select, well, these two are visible here, these are what the eyeballs mean, and we're going to merge visible. Okay, so now we have a layer just with this sky, and you can see where we painted around the trees. And again, we're doing this quick, so you want to take more time into doing it, so make it look a little bit better. Take some more time that we're doing here. But what we want to do is we want to find the average color of the sky. And the easiest way to do that is select this only, go up to filter, to blur, then there's an average. And now this color is the average color of the sky. And so quickly what we're going to do, it didn't fill the whole pane, and that's what we want to do. So we're going to take the eyedropper tool, we're just going to select it, and we're going to fill it. So we have one layer that's only this color. We're going to move this down into the background. Okay, so we have the sky there, and then we have the background. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this as a filter to the background. And an easy way to do is change this to possibly a soft light, maybe an overlay. It's very subtle, but I don't know if you can see it on this video. But it adds that just in the shadows, and sometimes it just adds a lot to even it out a little bit. You can play around with some of these other blending modes. This is not good, but usually overlay and soft light are the two ones that you really want to do. So in combination with the photo filter, we've got it's more of a moody look, and we're starting to see how the sky is really it's looking pretty good. Okay, sorry about that. My phone rang. Of all times, it rings during my video here. Anyway, where were we? We're working on the sky, and I like what's happening so far. I kind of don't like this, and I think we can go back and fix that real quick. Even I might want to bring some more color into this sky here, and we can do that quickly by, we have this smart object. Remember, we did this for a reason, and so I can go back in there, I just double click it, it opens up the raw again into camera raw, and we can make the same adjustments. So we'll bump up the color just a little bit. I think I want to put a little bit more magenta into it. I think that'll look, we can go back and look and we'll know for sure. So a little bit more warmth to it, and we'll hit OK. And as this is doing it, we're going to want to make this masking to fix this, and we'll do that right now. So yeah, I like that much better, a lot better. It evens out the color a little bit more. So anyway, we can go back into this area up here, grab our brush, make sure we're clicked on the mask instead. So B for brush, and we want to paint black. And we're going to do it probably a little even less than, let's go down to 18%, make it a little bit more, and just kind of tap in here just to get rid of some of these darker leaves. I mean, there's some good contrast there, but probably a little too much. And this happens when you have the overlay. This is one of the side effects of the easy way, but it's easily remedied. I don't have any issues with this. An easy way, if you're zoomed in like this, you want to move, you just hold down the space bar, it'll give you the hand key, and we can just move it around like this. So once, a a little bit of contrast is good, a little shadow, because the the sun is going to cast a shadow on all this stuff, and that's a good thing. Okay, so here we have the image, and it looks good, but it's still flat. There's not a lot of contrasts in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix that with you can do it with a curves adjustment layer or a levels adjustment. I prefer levels. It's a little easier to understand. I'm just going to give you the quick rundown on what does what. So this bar down here is simply, this brings up the level of blacks. So the more I bring it up, is there's less blacks. The black point is much higher, and as you can see, all the shadows are becoming brighter. Likewise, whites are more gray the farther you bring it in. So it brings down the brightness of the photo. We won't be using that today. What we're going to do is we're going to take the mid-tones and we're going to create some contrast. So we're going to bring that down a little bit, and then we're going to bring our highlights up a little bit. So now you can see we're really bringing in some dynamic range. And I'm thinking this is starting to look really good. You may think otherwise, but bear with me here. I think it looks really nice. So we're pretty much done for our quick edit. Obviously, there are a lot of things that I would continue to do. If you're familiar with dodging and burning, I would do that throughout these bushes, this grass, and some on the trees here. And if you're familiar with that, go right ahead. It'll bring out the photo a little bit more. But there's one thing I particularly like to do, more than I'd probably overuse it, but I like it a lot, is the post-crop vignetting, and I'm going to show you quickly how to do that. And we can use Camera Raw to do that as well. What we want to do is we want to create another layer of all this combined. Instead of flattening it, I like to work in a non-destructive workflow, so I don't want to destroy any of these already. If I flatten the image, I have no access to those now. It's a flat image. I can't change these. But let's say, you know what, maybe I didn't like this photo filter. Maybe want it a little bit less warm. In fact, that looks pretty good too. So this photo filter, you can turn that on and off, and you're okay. So that's why I like to create the levels, and I think this is the way that most people are going, and I highly recommend getting into the non-destructive workflow. But let's get back to the point here. So we're going to create a merge layer, and the easiest way to do that is, if I think it's on the PC, it's Alt Control Shift. Let me just and the E, yep. So and then the Mac is Command Option Shift E. And what that does, it creates a layer here. We'll call it just a merge layer. There are other ways to do it through the menus, but I think that's probably the easiest way. And that'll just give us a stamped visible layer of everything underneath that's visible. So we can modify this and do whatever. So in this case, we're going to go to Camera Raw Filter, and we're going to add this vignetting. Click over here on FX, Post Crop Vignetting. Bring this down a little bit. Bring out the feathering and the midpoint. And I'm going to overdo it here just a little bit, because I'm going to back out of it when we're done here. So we have this merge layer, and just like everything else, we can apply a mask to it and just remove what we don't want. So I'm going to start painting black to remove the places that I think are a little bit too heavy. And again, we can also do this opacity here, bring it back just a little bit. But like, for example, I don't want that up in here, so I can bring my brush up here a little bit. I can start just kind of doing this, and that's pretty much it. And this is everything from this point on is yours. I mean, you do what you want. I think I'm going to give you this raw file of the sky and this particular file, and if you want to follow along you can, and I'll put that in the comment section below. But anyway, this is the final photo. Of course, you know, spend more time on it, make it yours, but again, I mean, don't make your photo based on my raws, but take your own photos and follow instructions and try to make a, you know, a sky out there. Just real quick, I do see some hailing, and again, we can fix that real easily. And the way you do that is through this back over here. You know, while we're here, let's fix that, because you don't want. It's actually the wrong way. That's not something you want to see, is the haloing. So anyway, there you go. We'd have to recreate this layer, but see how that's pretty easy to go back and change that if you see any of the haloing around there. Okay, let's look at the before and after. Here's the before, and here's the after. Hope you like it, and thanks for watching.